Is Bishal Sitaula. Probably a lot of people know him already. He's a professor at the University of Oz. So he'll be talking about the mysticism of Rabindra Nath Tagore. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Asim Da. I would like to extend my gratitude to Bengali Cultural Association for inviting me here and ask me to talk about mysticism and Rabindra Nath Tagore. Let me be very clear that I cannot talk about mysticism. I can talk around it because mysticism cannot be taught, it has to be experienced. What is really mysticism? Let me give an example. A mystic is the one who sees, who knows the dark and night, or dark and light are the dance of love. And that love, that divine love, that Tagore was exploring throughout his life and expressing it through poetry, through his writings. Today, it is coming under something called noetic sciences. Noetic means inner knowing, it's a Greek word. And this science is evolving now. Let me give another example of mystical experiences. The astronaut of Apollo 14, Edgar Mitchell, when he walked on the moon and when he was returning, he was sitting toward the window side of the spacecraft. Suddenly he started experiencing everything around the star, the little blue planet shining down there. And suddenly he lost his own being there, his physical presence, and started experiencing everything one, the timeless experience, and he couldn't able to describe it. Of course, in that time, to the scientific committee, he couldn't able to share that, but he was looking in the where I can find the description of these kind of mystical experiences I had, and he found finally in our Vedic tradition, the Samadhi. Okay, the Samadhi. So, Rabindra Nath Tagore was one of the great noetic scientists, I would say. The phenomenology that we study today, one of the most difficult thing to study is the phenomenology of mystics. Because that experiences cannot come in any kind of language. Language becomes too small to describe what that experiences was. And of course, in our heritage in Indian subcontinent, different yogis have been experiencing that. But Tagore found a way to how it can be experienced in many ways, and that is using singing, dancing, because after all, that mystical experience comes from something called unity consciousness. When your silence and dynamism become one, then you have that kind of mystical experiences. I was closely watching the dance of the last dancer. When she was dancing, you know what was happening there? The dancer, the process of dancing and the dance become one. And there you have a profound experiences. And that is what is a mystical experiences that we cannot put into words. Tagore talks that mystical experience can be realized through love, the divine love, And he writes somewhere that love is the ultimate truth that lies at the center of creation, that binds everything. If you don't believe me, just feel the gravitation, and you are sitting there, you are not floating in the space. Close your eye and then feel that gravitation. That is nothing but love. Wholeness gives also idea that the mystical experience of wholeness. He used to meditate every day 2 hours, I understand, and in one occasion he was crossing the river, but before that he was meditating, and the boatman, the Maji, has to wait almost 8 hours because he couldn't come out of that ecstasy, that mystical experiences. He writes that by plucking the petals, you do not gather the beauty of flower. If you ask today, if you give a piece of flower to us, so-called scientists, we can describe it, okay, it has number of sepal, petals, endosyn, gynous, and those kind of things. But if you ask Rabindra Nath, he can see the wholeness there, he can see the beauty, he can see the intention of Mali there, he can see how this all season has orchestrated together to make that flower, and their cosmic correlates, and he can go on expanding and he find the entire divinity in that flower, that memory of wholeness. Well, I have been closely looking at his work very recently. He has been a great scientist, I would say, because he has given the wisdom-based renaissance of humanistic epistemology, which is really needed to solve the problem of dysfunctional world today, what Professor Dr. Roy was just mentioning. Well, finally, he was not just giving a kind of vague kind of, he knew a lot about Advaita Vedanta, it seems he was fond of that, but practical wisdom. He was telling that you cannot cross sea merely by standing and staring at the water. Very many people that time, those Vedantis were just preaching Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. Yes, in an ultimate state that is true, but you have to really jump into it and realize it, do all the practice that is needed. Well, he was also giving another practical wisdom. It is very simple to be happy, but difficult to be simple. Bhatnagar Sahib, it is very simple to be happy, but difficult to be simple. Well, I can go on and go on, but even in the relationship, in order to handle relationship between men and women, he was writing that the biggest changes in a woman's natures are brought by love. There is a difference between men and women in his view. If you want to make a profound change in the woman, a transformation, then it is brought by love. In men, by ambition. If you are able to push his ambitions, then there is a matching there. Men and women are different. And finally, the education kind of stuff which today, this kind of bread making education that we give to our children, they learn computer, they learn many kind of skills, but really lack the essence, the ecstasy of life. He writes that the highest education is that which merely gives us information, okay? Which do not merely give information, will not make us a living just encyclopedia, but makes our life in harmony with existence. How to be comfortable with everything else, what is called titiksha in Vedanta. This requires, of course, multiple intelligence, and Tagore, what in Nepal we call Thakur, I don't know how this Tagore comes, probably the other knows here. We call it Rabindra Nath Tagore or Gurudev in Nepal, in fact. I have been reading the Nepali version of Gitanjali lately. Those multiple intelligence is very, very important. Today, in our education, in the university, what is given a profound emphasis on what is known that you get from library, from internet. A little bit about the process of knowing, how to recognize that knowledge. But very little about the knower. Who is the really the knower? So that knower that Rabindra Nath Tagore was emphasizing on to make education very, very meaningful, beautiful, education with a sense of joy and creativity and wonder and so on. So finally I must say that Mahatma Gandhi used to say, my life is my message. I truly mean that Rabindranath's life was also his message. Thank you very much.